Welcome back guys, this is Shrikant. Today we are going to talk about one of the interesting topic here, and topic is subquery. So we are going to talk about subquery. What is subquery and how to use subquery in an actual query. Okay. The next topic we are going to talk about the correlated query, and which will be the obviously the next video. But just to tell you about subquery, um, this is important. Okay, so what is subquery actually? Subquery name itself suggests that if we'll try to decode the name, so it's basically a query. Okay, that's fine, it's basically query, and which is a sub. So the query which has been used in another query, and there is no direct relationship actually, just quote my words, there is no direct relationship between main query and the child query. So that kind of query is called as a subquery. So subquery has been used to derive data or to get the data without referencing to the main query. For example, let's say I have a table, and that table are having the order ID, and my requirement is that I have another table, that table also having the order ID, and my requirement is basically I don't want to see those order which are having entries in another table, right? So what will I do? I basically do one thing. I will take that table, I will pass that table into the in clause, and there I will write not in that specific table. So whatever the ID which are present in that table, I will take it as a result set and I will pass to the query condition, and if that rows are available there, it will simply exclude that, right? So this is my requirement, and trust me, this is the question which has been asked to me in one of my interview when I was attending for that. Okay, things are very simple, but when we go for an interview, people believe that you should be strong in a basic. So my request to all is that try to understand the basic, so that will be helpful for us. So we are going to talk about subquery. Let me recap the definition. Subquery is a query which is basically intermediate query, or which is basically temporary query, and that query is not dependent on the main query. That's the definition. Perfectly fine. Let's say we are going to create, we are having a table called as the create table hash order 1, and it has a column called as id, or I can say order id int, and let's select this, and let's create another table called as the order 2. Intention is to understand the basic concept. It's very simple. There is no rocket science or no complicated logic. Okay, perfectly fine. Let's do some insert into both the tables. Insert into the first table is hash order 1. Then I'm going to copy this. I'm going to write select 1. This is my order ID. Perfectly fine. And then I'm going to create another table. Then I'm write some union. So in a first table, I'm adding two entry 1 and 2. In another table, invalid object order 1. Okay. Okay, let's see. See, getting error always good. Invalid object name hash order. What does it mean? It means that tables are not present, right? Just create it then. That's fine. Okay, perfectly fine. So let's come back here. Let's run the query. I can see two rows has been loaded. Then just go down and just insert one more entry. Okay, perfectly fine. Let's come back here and let's run the query and see the output for both the one. Hash data, copy, paste to, then select both the query and run the query. Oh, great. So there is no entry in queue. Perfectly fine. Then just add it, right? Because we did a mistake. That's fine. Okay, let's do that. Let's come back here and let's run the query. Now by looking at the output, I can see first table having 3 rows and 1 to 1, right? Another table is having entry that is 1. Perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do, I am going to write a query. My requirement is that I want to see all the order ID which are present in the hash order 1, but those order ID should not be part of what? Should not be part of table 2. So how could I do that? Where ID not in. Should I go for a not in, should I go for a in or not in? Let's try to understand. So this is a kind of a new query actually. See, this is not a derived table. The table, if it is a derived table, then it would be the part of the join. Now in this case, it's a subquery because this is a main query and this is another query. So this query, let's say 2, and I'm taking out the ID. So this is a query. This is a different query which is basically in where clause. So this query will generate an output which will give me record 1 order ID. So this is the query, just run it. I'm selecting the query, running the query and seeing the output. It is showing me the output as a 1. So why this is subquery first and why it is not a derived table? If it is a derived table, it could be the part of or join clause, but it is a subquery, that's why it is a part of a condition. So you need to understand the differences between the subquery and the derived table. You will understand a lot when we will do practice. Okay. So my requirement was I want to see all the order ID which are not part of the order ID of the table 2. So if I say like this, so what will happen? Let's say if I'm not placing not here, let's see what happens. So I will see all the order ID which are a part of the table 2, right? But I don't want to see that because my requirement is I don't want to see those orders which are part of order 2 table. So what will I do? I will use a not. See the output. This is the requirement. So in this query, if I'll try to understand, the first query is this one. So for still order ID, another query is this one. This is not derived table because we haven't created table. We have created a new query, and this is a simple query which I have used. But sometimes there are a lot of business logic, and we need to use multiple joins. So in that case, we need to go for the join, and that would be complicated. But the concept idea is same. Okay. Once again, this is a main query, this is a child query, that's why it's a subquery. An important thing, this is not dependent on the main query. Child query is not dependent on the main query, that's why it's a subquery. Okay, thanks for watching. If you guys really like our video, please don't forget to share and subscribe with your friend community. And if you really like us, please don't forget to comment over the comment section. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.